At 400 million, we had 200 people. They just did different work. All the material was to point of use, all barcode EDI, very sophisticated product. Endless count of end items. We shipped systems, so many components to come to assembly for a system. Went from 20 weeks to 3 days. Cash flow was king. We ran the place on negative cash flow, and that's not done in many places, but through these techniques, it's an amazing leverage. We had no inventory. So it's a $400 million business with no inventory, no finished goods. Raw material came every day. We went from 500 suppliers to 50. And those 50 suppliers basically got more business over time and ran their businesses that way and were more profitable themselves as a result. We were all over Asia and had plants in Mexico and one plant in Europe that all ran the same way, all followed the same model. So the key in my mind was not just a vision, but 3 individuals, the president, I was chief operating officer and CFO, 30 years, dedicated. That's the key. I see that's one of the most keys, right? That there's a consistency of the management team that has a belief and a vision and can see a business. Again, when we were in a
And what was the belief and vision?
The vision was customer responsiveness.
Customer responsiveness was the vision.
Semiconductor plants now are $3 to $4 billion, and they're only good for 18 to 24 months, and then they need to be facilitated and retooled. Yes, and so you have to have an organization that not only can support a product that never fails, but when failures occur, make it invisible to the customer. So the idea of having the organization customer responsive, customer focused. If you think about lean and all the benefits it provides, it becomes that. So these reasons for operating this way were driven from an industry need, not because we felt it was cool for manufacturing, which many people make the mistake of. And so it never gets into the fabric or culture of the business. People like Intel, Motorola, TI, they wouldn't use any other product but ours. As a result, not because of just the life and reliability, but because of the responsiveness and focus to customer. The case study was we sold the business at $400 million to $1.5 billion company. In 2 years, they brought it to $100 million. It's $50 million now, right? So they lost the business.
They destroyed the value.
We had 98% of the world requirement for this product in semiconductor. 98%. You don't get any better than that.
Where was your pricing compared to others?
It wasn't pricing. Actually, we got a 20% premium. The value of customer responsiveness and customer support, when you're running a $3 to $5 billion semi plant that only lasts 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. In other words, if you miss the order, go somewhere else. You can't recover your capital, right? So the opportunity to have a company as a support partner that guarantees uptime and support so that you're never down. That was our guarantee. In other words, we guaranteed that if you were in the semi business, whether you owned our equipment or not and had a vacuum problem, we would solve it in 24 hours or less with people, equipment, or whatever. And the only thing we required was that in 60 days we settle the bill, whatever the bill is. But you, as the individual running that plant, knew that you could call us for any problem in vacuum space. Didn't have to have our equipment, and we'd solve it. That's powerful. And the organization across the full enterprise was organized and focused around lean concepts. I mean, the engineering design as well. You know, the incentives usually are labor, overhead, that kind of crap. Well, the overhead was really based in one way for new products, based on the amount of product or materials they used that were designed in the product. My word to the engineering was, you change anything you want, just change them all. Don't make the products special. Meaning, if you had a better way to design the motor, then you had to that had to be backward integratable to the rest of the product line. You can't go off in a tangent and have thousands of configurations that can't come together. You can have a lot of options as long as they're smart options that we can plug and play very quickly at the end of the process. And so this took 30 years to generate that kind of attitude and commitment and understanding in the employee side. Tremendous value there. But as I said, we sold the business and it became short-term focus, quarter to quarter. Killed it. So all this bullshit about the US can't be competitive, you can be. With these kinds of strategies coupled with the business strategy, right? The customer strategy, I don't see how you can't win. It's a different set of tools, different set of situations, or different measurables for every business, but basically it's the same. You know, to me, the argument was always time, because I don't usually get into a big argument or discussion if I'm discussing time through the process. You know, it's one of these things that they don't argue about. It's not your design, my design, I'm talking about time. So now we can put it in perspective and accept it better.
Say that again. Who were you talking to whenever time was the good translator? Didn't matter. As long as you're talking about time.
People get offensive if you attack their process or their procedure or their knowledge in their area. If we're doing this for the whole and it's time, and the employees were very well educated, and we spent a lot of time in education of employees, not in just their own skills so they could be more flexible throughout the organization, but so that they would understand the business needs and the customer needs, and that was the driver. So, and it was time-based. Take it away from the personal issue.
Mm-hmm.
So every business has its own hot button. You got to find out what that is, and then I think exploit that so that the area is not defensive or the functions are not defensive, so that you could work across the enterprise. And again, with 3 leaders that spent 30 years in running the company with that kind of vision, saying the industry is going to grow at this rate, why go out and buy other companies to make us bigger when we have this opportunity to capture it all? And this was a key leverage point for all functions to manage through with those guidelines.
Who was leading your sales and marketing operations?
Who was the individual?
You had 3 of you on board: the
Yes,
president,
we
COO,
did.
and CFO.
Yeah, we did have a train of sales marketing people run that function, but I can say that.
Did you ever have one that got this concept to the client, or how would you say this?
I would say it this way: the sales marketing were the most excited because they could get anything they wanted, anytime they wanted, anytime they needed it. They never had an argument. The traditional arguments of sales marketing with operations didn't exist. They came in and they were excited about this because they could see that, again, salespeople and marketing people get excited by the customer, and the whole operation was focused towards the customer. So there was no.
So the whole program was focused on the customer.
Correct.
And so
I mean, the purpose of it was for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
The functions and activities and measurements we put in place looked like they were paralleling and trying to leverage the employee population in their particular function. But in fact, the end game was the customer. Now, as a result, it was a game for employees, shareholders, and customers.
Mm-hmm.
We gave customers price breaks based on our performance. Employees got paid for performance in the number of jobs that they could do and be flexible into. And as far as, so they got paid well. But we could afford to have a full 401k match up to 6%. We could afford to have a full pension program, and we could afford to have lifetime medical. Okay? You don't find that in many places. It's just as important to manage the people, and I think the culture, right? That is the key. You gotta look in the mirror and say, what's in it for me at all levels. And so, to me, it's very holistic, and there's not many companies that look at it that way. I call them make-believe lean. If they're on a journey and they think that way, it's fine. But many of them that I see are make-believe lean. They want a short hit.
Carl's not
quick.
make-believe lean.
They want the rise quick and all that crap. They're not willing to play the long-term game.